Alright guys, Revolve Rostler here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the WWE United Kingdom Championship Tournament Night 1. Night 2 is tomorrow night. I'll have that review up hopefully tomorrow night. But this is tonight, and tonight was the finals of the tournament. Well, it was the quarters, the semis, and the final. We had the last 8, and then we had a couple of other matches just thrown in. So let's just get right into this. The opening contest of the show was Zack Gibson against Jack Gallagher. Now, I am going to go into a little bit of how I know at least every guy, well, I know pretty much every guy in this tournament. Zack Gibson is a guy I've only actually ever seen once. Zack Gibson was a guy that I saw on the World of Sport special that ITV did a couple of years ago with JR and commentary. Zack Gibson on that show had a match, I believe, with El Ligero that was by far the best match on the show. So with that in mind, I knew he'd probably be one of the best guys in the tournament. And after this matchup, I was pretty sure that his ability would stand out amongst some of the other guys. Zack Gibson is such a natural heel, and that works perfectly against like a guy like Jack Gallagher, who has this vaudevillain style gimmick. This was a very, very good matchup. Although, to be honest, after watching all the matches on the show, a lot of them did feel kind of samey, and that's probably the main takeaway, or the main negative, that I do feel for the show. A lot of the matches felt quite the same. It felt like there was kind of the same pacing for most of them, outside of maybe 2. And it kind of felt like there was the same kind of this British strong style kind of melded with this, fast-paced, aerial, high-flying maneuver stuff. It just kind of made a lot of the matches feel samey to me. The only thing that really stuck out in this matchup, to me, was the finish, and I really liked the finish. It was Zack Gibson beating Jack Gallagher, which was a shock to me. It was kind of an upset to see him beat a guy like Gallagher, who's obviously on the brand and is part of 205 Live and is a big guy. Undisputed Era shirt, by the way. But yeah, it was kind of shocking for me to see Gibson beat Gallagher. But with the reaction Gibson got, this was totally the right thing to do. I think Zack Gibson is a natural heel, and we'll get onto later why I think Zack Gibson could have gone a long way, or would or will go a long way in this tournament. And when I watched this matchup, I immediately thought Zack Gibson was going a long way in this tournament. I'm going to give this match 3.5 stars, which is a little less than I was going to originally give it, because I can't remember a lot of the spots. Of course, the finish, Shankly Gates, which is basically kind of like a behind wrist lock. It's kind of like a mounted wrist lock behind the opponent's head. It's a pretty cool looking finisher. And Shankly Gates, named after Bill Shankly, the former, I believe was he like the owner of Liverpool Football Club? I'm obviously a football fan, but I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm a Man United fan. But yeah, I can't remember Bill Shankly. I feel like he's the founder of Liverpool Football Club, even though they said he was an ex-manager. I believe he was the founder. 3.5 stars though. This was a very, very good match. Second match on the show. This may have been my favourite match on the show. It was Dave Mastiff against Joe Coffey. Now, both these guys I've seen quite a lot. Dave Mastiff has been on the UK indie scene for a long time. I saw him again in that World of Sport special. I believe he's appeared in WCPW a couple of times, which brings me to Joe Coffey, the guy that WCPW at one point was built around. Joe Coffey was a great heel in WCPW, but he was also a great gimmick in WCPW. He was kind of like that Santino Morello character, that kind of humorous, quirky comedy character, but he got over it, and then they turned him heel, and it was kind of cool. Both these men I like because their styles are very different, and this matchup was different to anything on the show. This was a Hoss match, and this is probably why it was my favourite thing on the show. It was just two big men. There wasn't really a lot of wrestling. They just fought each other. They just rammed into each other, and they gave each other lariats and sentons and that sort of thing. At the beginning of the matchup, both men just ran at each other. They collided with each other, did it again and again and again until both men went down. They both rolled out the ring. They did it on the outside, and both men collided with each other. They did it again and again and again. And I like this. This was different. I haven't seen a proper good Hoss match in WWE for quite a while. And they worked such a great pace with this style as well. I think that's one of the things that really sticks out in this match for me. Eventually, Dave Mastiff did take control, hit a huge senton on Joe Coffey, hit a big German suplex as well, but that wasn't enough to put him away. In the end, Joe Coffey won the match with a discus lariat, a powerful discus lariat, beating Dave Mastiff and advancing to the semi-finals. He would face the winner of Travis Banks and Ashton Smith. This was a very fun matchup. Really did enjoy this. I'd give this 3.25 stars. Although I remember more from this matchup than the opener, I do remember that when I watched the matchup, the first match, I do remember that it was, to me, a better match. That's why this one just gets slightly less, but I did maybe prefer this just because the style was so unique and I just haven't seen it in a while. So 3.25 stars up. These guys had a very fun matchup. Then we had, I believe, Jordan Devlin against Flash Morgan Webster. Jordan Devlin, honestly, is probably the guy that I think I know least. I actually saw him in last year's United Kingdom tournament. I thought he was adequate at best. I don't think he was amazing. I think that this year, though, he has really improved. I think that his facials are excellent. I think that his mannerisms are excellent. I think he understands that he should be a heel. He is just a mini Finn Balor at the minute, and that's not a criticism. At the minute, that's just saying just try a little harder, improve on a couple of things, techniques and stuff like that, and you could be just as good as Finn Balor. So, John Devlin, he did impress me a lot in this matchup. Flash Morgan Webster is just one of the indie darlings in the UK. He's great, he's fast, he's quick, he has a cool gimmick. This kind of the mod father. He's kind of like, the 1960s hippie with his cool suit. It's kind of Austin Powers groovy baby kind of outfit with his moped helmet. Like he's cool. I like his gimmick. This matchup was really, really fun, really fast paced, which was great after the slower paced post match that we just had. A lot of suicide dives. Flash Morgan Webster did his 3 suicide dives, that sort of thing. Hit a bunch of bicycle knees, which I really, really like. Really safe bicycle knees as well, which made me happy to see safe bicycle knees. In the end, John Devlin with a fantastic Spanish fly off the top rope. That didn't pin Flash Morgan Webster. He then hit a super kick. That didn't beat Flash Morgan Webster. Flash Morgan Webster escaped. I think Devlin went for a double foot stomp or something. Flash Morgan Webster got out of the way. He hit the Eton Rifle, which is a kind of Destino. It's kind of like Naito's Destino, but more of a Nikki Cross reverse DDT than a, say, Devon Dudley reverse DDT. God, Ross, you're a nerd for wrestling. This was a really, really fun match, though. 3.25 stars. Again, not as good as the opener, I don't think, but I do remember more, so maybe that's why I prefer it. And then we had the final quarter-final matchup. It was Ashton Smith against Travis Banks. Travis Banks is another one of those WCPW guys that I think everybody knows. The Kiwi buzzsaw, as he is known, all over the world. Well, he's fantastic. To me, he's one of the best guys in the tournament. Ashton Smith is the only guy in the last state that I'd never heard of. Genuinely, to me, when I saw him, he looked like a budget Ricochet. And in the ring, he is no Ricochet. Like, this match was very kind of nothing. It was the only nothing match on the show, which I guess I know why it was nothing after watching it, but this was all about getting Travis Banks over. He did his shotgun drop kick, he did a double stomp to the back of the head of Ashton Smith. He was great, and he, in the end, of course, he hit the slice of heaven, which is that step up enziguri out of the corner, then hit the Kiwi Crusher, which is like the Key Crusher, which Loki obviously used to use for the 1-2-3. This match was kind of nothing. 2.5 stars to this one, but Travis Banks here looked great, and I think that, to me, he was the guy in the tournament with the most ability after looking at the quarterfinals. Then we had a little interlude, and we had Triple H come out and announce that the NXT UK brand would be starting, and obviously there were a couple of shows that he announced. There'd be one in London, Plymouth, Liverpool, and Birmingham. This NXT UK show intrigues me because at the minute, I imagine most of these 8 guys will be signed, which is exciting because Zach Gibson, Travis Banks, Dave Mastiff, Joe Coffey, these are talented guys. But they need more than those guys to fill his whole UK brand. And I get that it's NXT UK, it's kind of a spin-off of NXT, so they can use a couple of those guys, the Danny Birches, and they don't even need to be UK guys to be on this brand. But I think I'd prefer it if they were, because when, I don't know, I don't mind the belt being contested for by all these different nations. Obviously Gargano and Roderick Strong have both had matches for the title, and so has Kyle O'Reilly. But I prefer it now you have a UK brand if the brand was only fought between UK guys, or at least guys in the Commonwealth, so your New Zealands, your Australias, your Canada. That's not too bad, I'll allow that. But nevertheless, after this announcement, obviously Johnny Saint is the GM of NXT UK. They had a little moment in the ring, it was cool. We had a triple threat match, which I believe I thought it was a fatal 4-way originally, and I believe that I checked up after the matchup. This was a fatal 4-way, and it was filmed as a fatal 4-way. But the last, I can't remember the lady's name, but she got injured, and so this match has been cut. I can clearly tell it's been cut because this wasn't very long. It only lasted about 4 minutes. This was Toni Storm, Killer Kelly, and Isla Dawn. Toni Storm was very easily the most over, the most the most capable of the three women. Killer Kelly needs a new name. Killer Kelly, though, to be fair, an insanely cool penalty kick to Isla Dawn on the outside. Isla Dawn has a great entrance. That was the one thing I picked up from her. But in the end, of course, it's Toni Storm who picks up the victory. A German suplex to Killer Kelly, and then the Storm Zero, which is it's an air raid crash neckbreaker, which is what Okada does in his matches. This match kind of gets 2 stars because to me it's kind of nothing, and I feel sorry for the ladies. Obviously, for the time that this match had, without it being cut, they did try, but 4 minutes is a very hard length of time to get in a really, really good match. So it was fine. It was kind of just there. And after that, I believe we moved into another very, very quick match. But this match, honestly, was one of my favourite matches on the show. It was Zack Gibson and Flash Morgan Webster. And this match was a sprint. 4 minutes again, I think this match went about. And this just felt like a sprint. Like Flash Morgan Webster just straight out the gate went after Zack Gibson. And I loved this because Zack Gibson, honestly, had got through the first round relatively easy and relatively unscathed. And as much as his match was the longest, Zack Gibson looked like the most dominant competitor in the tournament. And I like the fact that Flash Morgan Webster went out there with the game plan that he needed to beat Zack Gibson quickly to have any hope of winning the final. So he went straight in with bicycle knees, and he tried the Eaton rifle, and Zack Gibson escaped it, and it was great. It was really, really good stuff here. And obviously he hit suicide dives, and Zack Gibson kept escaping, and he started to work on the arm a little bit of Flash Morgan Webster. But towards the end of these 4 minutes, Flash Morgan Webster went for a suicide dive. Amazingly, Zack Gibson caught him and hit the Helter Skelter, which is basically a final cut on the ramp. He rolled. Flash Morgan Webster beat the count, and then Zack Gibson immediately got on top, locked in the Shankly gates again. Flash Morgan Webster has to tap out. Zack Gibson advances to the final of the United Kingdom Championship Tournament. Cool. This match was really fun for the time it had. 3.5 stars. To me, this was actually probably the best match on the show so far. So kudos to these guys because they proved that you can have a sprint and have a really, really good sprint in a couple of minutes. This was the best 4-minute match I've seen in a long time. So kudos to these guys. Then we had the second semi-final. This was also really, really good though. This was a bit longer. This was obviously Travis Banks, Joe Coffey. I love this because Joe Coffey was definitely not at 100% after the opening match, the second match on the show with Dave Mastiff, and he was showing at his injured ribs. And that's what Travis Banks went to work with. His mixed martial arts style he used to attack the ribs with strikes and kicks of Joe Coffey. And Joe Coffey fought back, and he decided to go for the head of Travis Banks, which is an interesting style. I like 2 men going after different body parts. But then Joe Coffey would change his style and start to go for the back of Travis Banks, maybe setting up for that lariat later on. He would, elbows and forearms and stuff like that to the back. And Joe Coffey, he kept going there, he kept trying. And Zack Gibson, Travis Banks, neither man could put each other away. Joe Coffey went for that discus lariat. Travis Banks countered it, hit a roll up, and pinned Joe Coffey, and it was a fantastic thing. And there's a great shot, honestly, of Joe Coffey as he's pinned, as the 3 count is done. Joe Coffey he obviously pushes him off after the 3, and he bangs the mat in anger, and that was a fantastic little piece of photography that I think a lot of people would miss. Really, really good stuff there. So Travis Banks beats Joe Coffey. He advances to the finals, meaning the finals was Travis Banks and Zack Gibson. 2 guys I actually kind of had a feeling after their first 2 matches would make it to the finals. A natural heel, a natural babyface. After the matchup, Joe Coffey attacked Travis Banks, laid him out, sent him into the ring post shoulder first, setting up the supposed finish for the main event. With Zack Gibson obviously being a guy who works on the arm, and then Joe Coffey hit the discus lariat on Travis Banks. So Travis Banks, kind of the same as they did last year with the UK tournament. Obviously, Tyler Bate was injured before his finals match against Pete Dunne last year. Kind of same as what they did here, obviously, but this was obviously Joe Coffey attacking the finalist opponent instead. This match was very good though, 3.5 stars, had a great pace. This had the best story of any match on the show as well. And 3.5 stars, very, very good match. Then we had maybe my favourite match on the show. I'd say probably the best match on the show, I would say. The 6-man tag match, the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong against British Strong Style, Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate. I thought this match was great. This had a fantastic pace. It had this like the obvious trios pace at the beginning where it was slow and they worked over a man, and obviously Pete Dunne had come in and the crowd would cheer. And obviously they hated the Undisputed Era, this UK crowd, which was fantastic. And then they'd all just have a great trios, kind of lucha style match, and it was great. They all got in the ring, they all just bombs at each other. Adam Cole, super kick, the axe from Kyle O'Reilly, and then obviously Bate would come in and hit that awesome, goes into the ropes, hit that lariat. Roderick Strong comes in, hits a belly to back facebuster, and then comes Pete Dunne, hits the huge Enziguri. Then Pete Dunne just gets destroyed by the Undisputed Era. He gets hit with the knee drop brainbuster after he'd been dropped on the outside on the barricade. He gets hit with the kneecap brainbuster, kicks out of that. He then gets hit with a penalty kick from O'Reilly. That is broken up by Tyler Bate, and then they all just start going absolutely ballistic. Pete Dunne goes for the bitter end. O'Reilly counters it into the guillotine, which was awesome. Also, after a great spot was after Dunne kicked out of the penalty kick from O'Reilly. O'Reilly immediately locked in Armageddon, the armbar, which I thought was fantastic. Bate comes in and him and Dunne hit a assisted Tyler Driver 97, but that's broken up. Then the Undisputed Era again, they just clean house. Axe from O'Reilly, the smash with a knee from Strong, and then a huge Shining Wizard from Adam Cole, but that isn't enough for the matchup. In the end, Trent Seven comes in, those guys clear house. Trent Seven grabs Kyle O'Reilly. Tyler Bate goes into the ropes, bounces off him, hits a lariat. He takes out Kyle O'Reilly as Trent Seven's giving him a dragon suplex. That's enough for the 1-2-3. Mustache Mountain and Pete Dunne, British Strong Style, beat the Undisputed Era. This was a great little trios match, a great little 6-man tag match. 4 stars I'm going to give this. This was really, really fun. I would say the best match on the show. And yeah, this was worth the price of admission to me. This was a great match. And that led us into the main event, the final of the United Kingdom Championship tournament. Travis Banks, Zach Gibson. Obviously, this match played out pretty much how you'd expect. Gibson would repeatedly go for the arm. He'd drop him on the barricade. He'd just do everything. Spike the arm. Just a dastardly heel. He'd hit the Queen's Court or whatever it was called, where he like spikes the arm into the mat. Just completely working over the arm of Travis Banks. Travis Banks would have some fantastic moments though. At one point, he hit the slice of heaven, that step up Enziguri, on the outside after Gibson went to throw him into the barricade. That was a really, really cool spot. He got in the ring, hit the slice of heaven, but that wasn't enough. That was a 2 count. Both men went at it again. Travis Banks hit the Kiwi Crusher, which Zach Gibson kicked out of again. Zach Gibson honestly showing heart, and I think this was really good to show that he can take this, especially because Zach Gibson obviously would go on to win it, and he's got to look strong against Pete Dunne. He's got to look strong if he's going against the UK champ of over a year. Zach Gibson though, he caught Travis Banks on a suicide dive. He basically spiked the arm as he caught him. He threw him in the ring, hit the Helter Skelter, that final cut again. He kicked out, but as he kicked out, he locked in the not as he kicked out, but immediately after he kicked out, he locked in the Shankly gates. Banks crawled towards the ropes. Gibson rolled back to the center of the ring, and Travis Banks has no choice but to tap out. Zach Gibson wins the second inaugural United Kingdom tournament, and he will face Pete Dunne tomorrow night for the United Kingdom Championship. This was a great matchup, 4 stars, really, really good way to end the show. After the matchup, Banks went to shake the hand of Gibson. Gibson wouldn't do it. Triple H, Johnny Saint, and Shawn Michaels came out. Shawn Michaels came out earlier in the show just to pop the crowd, basically. They all came out, they shook the hands of Zach Gibson. As Zach Gibson got the microphone, there was actually a really good spot in the match as well, which I do need to mention. It's Zach Gibson couldn't think how he was going to beat Travis Banks, so at one point he went for a roll-up using the ropes, and the referee caught him, and the crowd started to chant, well, they chanted "You're a wanker," but they also chanted "Scousers always cheat," or like "Never trust a Scouser, they always cheat." I found that quite funny. But yeah, Zach Gibson, at the end of the show, he grabs the microphone, he goes to say something, but is interrupted by UK champion Pete Dunne, who comes down, they have a square off, and that ends the first night of the United Kingdom Championship. Sorry if I'm stuttering a bit, guys. It's very early in the morning, I am very tired, as you can tell, which I do apologise for. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. This has been Raw Wrestler. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think to the second ever United Kingdom Championship tournament? Do you think it was better than the first one? To me, I don't think the final was as good. I think Bate and Dunn had a better match last year. But I did think the six-man tag was a fantastic little kind of thing that I don't think we'll ever get to see again. So, well, maybe we will one day. But to me, it was kind of special seeing that. Like, that was the thing I was most excited about on this show. What did you think to the winner, Zach Gibson? What did you think to Travis Banks? Who was your favourite performer in the tournament? Who was your least favourite performer in the tournament? Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Revolver Rosselot.